ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादां सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। गुरवे गौरचंद्राय राधिकायै तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं कृष्णचैतन्य ईश्वरम्। Hare Krishna. My prostrated obeisances to all the wonderful Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis assembled here. This is session number 36. We have finished our discussion on the prayers of Gajendra yesterday, and a couple of devotees requested if the last verse can be discussed more. Is everyone able to hear? Because our Daujinitai Prabhu has messaged that he's not able to hear. Is the voice going through? Can the devotees kindly use the chat window to let us know if the voice is going through? Are you able to hear? Is everyone able to hear? Okay, Ajinkya Prabhu, thank you for your feedback, and other devotees also. Okay, so Daujinitai Prabhu, can you hear me now? Other devotees are able to hear. Are you able to hear? Okay. Thank you all devotees for kindly giving that feedback. Some devotees messaged that, thank you dear Ramayatma Prabhu for that feedback. Some devotees yesterday reached out to kindly express their heart if the last verse can be covered again so that they can get more, probably the fact that we couldn't cover it with enough time. So if we can have more discussion, then that'll be nice. So let us do this again. Let's discuss text 29 and 30 today. Some nice discussions, some nice points that the acharyas have given. So let's discuss. Nayam vedaswam atmanam yat-shaktyaaham dhiyahatam tam duratyayamahatmyam bhagavantam mitosmyaham. This is text 29. And then text 30. Shri Shukha Uvacha Evam Gajendramupavardhita nirvishesham brahmadayo vividha linga bidabhimana naite yadopasasasripu nikhilatmanatvat tatrakhilamaramayo hariravirasit. Evam Gajendramupavardhita nirvishesham brahmadayo vividha linga bidabhimana naite yadopa sasripu nikhilatmanavat nikhilatmavat nikhilakat oh Krishna nikhilatmakatvat tatrakhila maramayo hariravirasit. So I didn't chant it properly, so I'll chant it a couple of more times so that I get used to this verse. Shri Shukha Uvacha Evam Gajendram Upavarnita Nirvishesham Brahmadayo Vividhalinga Vidabhimana Naite Yadopasasrpur Nikhilatmakatvat Tatrakhila Maramayo Hariravirasit. Evam Gajendram Upavarnita Nirvishesham Brahmadayo Vividhalinga Vidabhimana Naite Yadopasasrpur Nikhilatmakatvat Tatrakhila Maramayo Hariravirasit. Evam Gajendram Upavarnita Nirvishesham Brahmadayo Vividhalinga Vidabhimana Naite Yadopasasrpur Nikhilatmakatvat Tatrakhila Maramayo Hariravirasit. So we read the translation and purport for 29 yesterday. So we'll just quickly read the translation for 30 now. Translation for 30. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, when the king of the elephants was describing the supreme authority, without mentioning any particular person, he did not invoke the demigods headed by Brahma, Shiva, Indra and Chandra. Thus none of them approached him. However, because Lord Hari is the super soul Purushottama, the personality of Godhead, he appeared before Gajendra. So in text 30 we see the Supreme Lord Hari, Tatra Akhila Amara Mayo Harir Avirasit. Avir or appearance. Sri Hari appears. So now we'll discuss text 29 and 30. Text 29, just the words from the Sanskrit verse. Na ayam veda swam atmanam yad shaktya aham dhiya hatam tam duratyaya mahatmyam bhagavantam itosmyaham. So Gajendra is making this point that, my Lord, na ayam veda. In general, people don't know much about you. They don't know about you. Veda means to know. It comes from the root word vit. Vedanta, vit. Vit. So just like we say someone has dhana or wealth, he's called dhanavan. Someone has bhagya, he's called bhagyavan. Similarly, vit means knowledge. So if someone has knowledge, he's called vitvan. Vidwan. So vit means knowledge and Veda means to know. So therefore the 4 Vedas are called Vedas because that's the book of transcendental knowledge. So na ayam Veda. People in general don't know your glories enough. Therefore they don't surrender to you. And swam atmanam, this identity, they don't know. They don't know about you. They don't know about themselves. And I am also similar, O Supreme Lord. I am also like everyone else. Yat shaktya aham dhiya hatam. Dhi means intelligence. Dhi. Dhiyo yonaha. Dhi means intelligence. We see the word dhi, dhiman. Gurum prakashaye dhiman. This word has come in the Shastra. Gurum prakashaye dhiman. That one should act in such a way, an intelligent person should act in such a way that the spiritual master becomes very pleased and his glories are spread far and wide. Gurum prakashayet dhiman. Dhiman means intelligent person. An intelligent person should act in such a way that the glories of his spiritual master spreads by his activities, not that he puts his spiritual master to shame. So dhi means intelligence, or to be clever, to analyze properly. Yat shaktya aham hatam, dhiya hatam. Hata means to destroy, to kill. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. So that hana, hata is the same word, destruction or killing. And shaktya means by shakti. Aham dhiya hatam. My Lord, by your inconceivable potency of Maya Shakti, I don't know who I am, like everyone else around. They don't know who they are. And My Lord, I don't understand you. I'm just like a parrot repeating. And no one around me also understands your glory. So that's what Gajendra is saying. Na ayam veda swam atmanam. No one around, including myself, know about you. And they don't know enough about themselves also. We just say we are not this body but spirit soul. But we don't really realize what that is. His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj in one class said that Prabhupada said that we are not this body but spirit soul. More than 1,700 times in his discussions. So Srila Jayapataka Maharaj was saying that why would Prabhupada repeat that so many times? Because even after saying so many times, we have not realized it, that we are anything more than this body. So therefore, till the time things have not been realized, they must be repeated. Sometimes we sit in the class and we think, oh, this story I know. Oh, this philosophy I have heard. Oh, this point I have heard. Oh, this song I have sung. Oh, this verse we have chanted. But it's not about what I know in my head. How much of that have I realized in my life? If we have realized anything in reality, then our desire to hear that increases. Because realization means humility. And humility means I don't know much. Whatever I am hearing is actually Krishna speaking through the speaker for me. Like that. So that is realization. Difference between information of the head and transformation of the heart. So yat shaktya, which shaktya? Maya Shakti. By Maya Shakti, dhiya hatam. My intelligence has become completely destroyed, covered. I don't know what steps to take in life. And as a result of which I am taking all the wrong steps. And I don't know who I am, and I don't know enough about you. Tam duratyaya mahatmyam. Mahatmyam means glories, and duratyaya, difficult. Just like we know, Daivi Hesha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratyaya. My Maya Devi, Maya Shakti is difficult to cross. So similarly, your Mahatmyam, my Lord, your glories are difficult to understand. Bhagavantam, He Bhagavan, Itosmyaham. I take shelter of you. I don't know anything. I'm simply bowing down to you. Like that. So this is the last verse. Now we'll discuss this verse and the next verse. I'll read the translation for both and then we'll have free-flowing discussion. So text 29, this is the translation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose illusory energy the Jiva, who is part and parcel of God, forgets his real identity because of the bodily concept of life. I take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose glories are difficult to understand. And text 30, translation again. Sri Shukdev Goswami continued, when the king of elephants was describing the supreme authority without mentioning any particular person, he did not invoke the demigods headed by Lord Brahma, Shiva, Indra and Chandra. Thus none of them approached him. However, because Lord Hari is the super soul, Purushottama, the supreme personality of Godhead, he appeared before Gajendra. So here the appearance of the Lord has been mentioned. So, yesterday we saw, especially in the Yoga Randhita Karmano Hridi Yoga Vibhavite Yogi Noyam Prapashyanti Yogesham Tam Natosmyaham verse. We saw how Gajendra is making this point that when we remember Sri Krishna, then all our reactions are burned to ashes. In fact, the Bhagavatam says, Smarantaha smarayantascha mitho ghaugha haram harim bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya bhibrat utpulakam tanum. That the devotees who are constantly discussing and remembering the Supreme Lord, Smarantaha, the devotees who remember, and Smarayantaha, those who cause others to remember the Supreme Lord, what happens? Agha ugha haram harim. Agha means sins, and haram means to take away, and Hari, that Hari who takes away all our sins. What happens to that Supreme Lord? When devotees are constantly discussing, remembering and causing others to remember Sri Hari, then in this way, devotion to that Hari is invoked in the heart, which takes away everything inauspicious. So it is the bhakti, bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya bhibrati utpulakam tanum. the body becomes ecstatic with hair standing on end and tears coming from our eyes. Not in a sahajiya manner. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, in the first chapter of the Madhya Lila, Prabhupada in the purport, he makes this point that what is the difference between, or Prabhupada is asking an interesting question. He says, who is better? A sahajiya is better or a mayavadi is better? Sahajiya is he who is prematurely acting as if he has developed too many symptoms of devotion. Like sometimes someone who's not at that level will act as if his body is trembling in public, or will act as if he is having very ecstatic symptoms in the body. Things like that. That is a sahajiya, who is prematurely... So he who is acting to be at a level that he is not at, by taking this process very cheaply, is a sahajiya. Saha means together and ja means janma. So sahaja, what does sahaja mean? Sahaja means spontaneous, that which appears naturally. Along with bhakti, that which appears spontaneously with bhakti, like the brother of bhakti. So when there is chanting of the holy name, automatically there is hair standing on end on the body, and tears coming from the eyes, and the throat has a lump of emotion. Especially great souls like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and 6 Goswamis, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sriman Mahaprabhu, his associates, when they're all in bhakta bhav, when the Supreme Lord is taking the mood of a devotee, then these symptoms are seen. Mahaprabhu is jumping in the kirtan, very tall, very high, and then falling like a bag of bones and rolling on the ground, and sometimes his hands are dislocated. Sometimes he's frothing from the mouth even. And there's blood all over his body as he's rolling and hitting the wall to find Krishna. These descriptions are there in the Antya Leela. So someone who's not at that level, but is acting in everyone's presence that he is spontaneously at that level, is called not a sahajiya, but a prakrita sahajiya. You see, the word sahajiya is not wrong. The word sahajiya means those emotions which come spontaneously with bhakti. Saha means together, ja means janma. Sahajiya, those emotions and expressions of the body which appear naturally with devotion is called sahajiya, those feelings. So that's not a bad word. But prakrita sahajiya is the usage. Prakrita means materialistic. So when those emotions are faked in the body for materialistic intention, it's called prakrita sahajiya. That is one side of the story. Other side of the story are Mayavadis. Mayavadis consider everything about Krishna to be Maya. They consider that this whole world, which is under the spell of illusion, is that same illusion which forms a temporary form called as Krishna or Rama, etc. These are all temporary forms. Before the appearance of Krishna, there is no Krishna avatar. There is no form of Krishna. And after the departure of Krishna, there is no form of Krishna. That's what they believe. We in the Vaishnava philosophy, we understand that these are eternal forms, Satchitananda Vigraha, which is present even in the spiritual realm. Vaikuntha, Goloka, ityadi. And from there, the Supreme Lord descends in his original form. Avajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajananto. In the Gita, Bhagavan, Shri Krishna has said that when I descend in my original form, fools, they belittle this position and decry to say that this is a temporary, illusory form. Therefore, there's no point meditating on this form because it is a temporary form. And in that temporary manifestation, there is a name given, Krishna. This name doesn't exist before the appearance, doesn't exist after he departs. So therefore, there's no point chanting these names. And therefore, when the temporary form is manifest, and he's performing some pastimes, those pastimes are also temporary, which have no reality after his departure or before his appearance. So in this way, his form, his name, his qualities, pastimes, everything is material. This is Mayavadi. Mayavadi is Krishna Aparadi. So Prabhupada is asking this question, between these two, which class is better? And Prabhupada answers by saying that the Sahajiyas, the Prakrita Sahajiyas are better. At least they are crying tears with, even if it is crocodile tears, they are at least crying tears chanting the holy name. But the Mayavadis are belittling the form and calling it illusory. So Prabhupada said at least it is better to be a Prakrita Sahajiya than to be a Mayavadi. The example our acharyas give is that of a fake labor pain. Think of a Mataji who's about to become a mother, and she's having a baby in her womb, and she's having labor pain, genuine pain, and she's screaming because the child is appearing in this world. And there's another lady who's not pregnant in the hospital, and she's also trying to cry in the similar frequency or similar pitch or intensity of this mother. So the acharyas explain, they both may be crying, but the one who doesn't have the baby, her crying is fake, because she's crying and she's shouting and crying and yelling, but there's no effect. But the one who is shouting and yelling and crying, who's going to become a mother very soon, she's having genuine emotions because there is a baby in her body. So similarly, the sahajiyas, the prakrita sahajiyas may also cry and weep and fall to the ground in ecstasy and roll and get some cheap adoration. But they are not pregnant, in the sense they don't have the womb of their heart filled with the baby of bhakti. But those who have their womb or their heart filled with bhakti shakti, when they are crying, those tears are actually purifying the whole material realm. So it's not wrong to cry for Krishna. Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj would say, at least start crying from the point that we are not able to cry for Krishna. When we are not having genuine devotion, still it is not wrong to cry for Krishna. But it is wrong to cry in public to get some cheap adoration from everyone. This is what is wrong. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says one should cry for Krishna. Gaur Govinda Maharaj said, I have opened a crying school here in Bhubaneswar. ISKCON Bhubaneswar, Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj called it the crying school, which means we must learn to cry for Krishna. When Krishna says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati, that give me little fruit, flower, water or leaf, that water ultimately means our tears, because one day in Kali Yuga the water stock will be finished. So where will the water come from? Our tears. Krishna has given us tear gland. We can cry. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says we should cry. And if we are not able to cry, we should cry that we are not able to cry. He goes up to saying this. So it's not wrong to cry for Krishna. Iti gopya pragayanta pralapantyascha chitradha ruruduhu suswaram rajan Krishna darshana lalasa. The Raspanchadhyaya in the Bhagavatam describes that the gopis found Krishna after the Gopi Geet. Krishna appeared. Tasam avir bhut shauri smayamana mukhambujam pitambaradhara shragvi sakshat manmatha manmatha. Krishna appeared. Why? Because the gopis were singing the holy name and crying tears, and in their heart they had only one desire. Krishna darshana lalasa. Desire to see the form of Krishna. So to have tears in pure devotion is excellent. Next on the list is aspiring devotion and crying to get Krishna. But next on the list is taking some material problem that we are having to Krishna and saying, Krishna, I am in this situation, please help me. But to cry temporary, fake tears, to get some adoration from people to say, oh, he's such a great devotee. This is what is wrong. This is what is wrong. But here, the words that I'm saying, smarantaha smarayantascha mitho aghauga haram harim bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya bhibrati utpulakam tanum. When hair is standing on the end of the body and tears are coming, that is because of pure love. And that happens why? Because the heart gets cleansed. And the heart gets cleansed why? Because the person is remembering Sri Hari. So when we remember Sri Hari, chant the names of Sri Hari, hear about Sri Hari, and help others remember Sri Hari, then karmani nirdahati kintuja bhakti bhajam. All the karmic reactions are torn to pieces. Just like we see when the fan is moving in full speed, you switch off, the switch is there, you switch it off. The fan is still moving because it has been in the motion for some time. The blades are moving. But if you just wait, the fan will come to a standstill. The ceiling fan I'm talking about. The ceiling fan on the top, the blades may move when it's on, but you switch it off, then it switches off in some time. It moves for some time, but then eventually switches off. Similarly, when we start performing Tivrena Bhakti Yogena, a very intense path of bhakti, that is like switching off the switch of karmic reactions. But because our reactions have been moving, the ceiling fan of our reactions have been moving for some time, those blades will move for some time. They'll keep moving. But eventually they will come to a standstill. It's not that as soon as I start performing bhakti, all my karmic reactions are burned to ashes. It takes some time. It'll move for some time. But in the middle of that, when it is moving, it is almost coming to an end. If you switch on the fan again, then again it takes off. So we must make sure that the fan of karmic reactions, the switch is switched off with the determined step of bhakti. Like that. Also the Bhagavatam describes parasparanu kathanam pavanam bhagavat yashaha mitho rati mitho tushti mitho nivrittiratmanaha. That when we hear about Krishna, all of this I am speaking with respect to yogi randhita karmano hridiyoga yoga vibhavite, because it's a very beautiful verse that Gajendra is chanting. So by discussing about the Supreme Lord, by remembering Him, by chanting about Him every day, what will happen? 4 things happen. When we mutually discuss, step number 1, we come together. Second, mitho rati. Vaishnav relationships better when we hear and chant about Krishna. Third, mitho tushti. We all become very satisfied. And fourth, mitho nivrittiratmanaha. We cross all our anarthas, our inner vices, our defects. Anartha nivritti takes place together. We cross all our inner negative vices and defects and we develop pure devotion. These things happen by hearing and chanting about Krishna. So, by continuously chanting, by continuously hearing and remembering the Supreme Lord, then we see Him in the heart. And when we start seeing Him in the heart, even before we start seeing Him in the heart, there comes a state when the heart becomes so sensitive to any deviation. It's almost like a smoke detector, on our ceilings. Like you make some aloo paratha and it's on the stove, you're making aloo paratha and you see the smoke, the smoke detector will start beeping. And then you see devotees, they have to literally take a cloth which is on their shoulder and they have to jump, waving close to the smoke detector so that the smoke detector stops beeping. So why is the smoke detector beeping? Because it's able to see even a small probability of fire or smoke. After making some parathas on the stove, you can see that the smoke detector has become so sensitive to any detection that it starts beeping. So our consciousness becomes like that. Initially, when we are not chanting and reading and hearing enough, the heart will move in the flow without any detection. We will not be able to know where the deviation is there. This is practical experience. One devotee was mentioning to me in some private discussion. He was mentioning that 2-3 years ago, Prabhu, I was criticizing devotees so much without realizing. And I was thinking it's just normal. I am not saying anything wrong. Either I would justify it by saying this is not Vaishnava aparad because I am not committing aparad. I am just speaking the truth. Or I would say, yes, this is aparad, but the good news is he's not Vaishnava. So it's not Vaishnava aparad. So he was telling me very honestly that 2-3 years ago, Prabhu, this is how I was. I was criticizing left, right, center. I would just say, I would just take off that I have enough time and devotees are around and it's a very favorable atmosphere and there's no one talking. So let me pull up some spicy topic which will charm everyone's heart and put me in the center of attention so that I can tell everyone this very crispy news. He would tell me that, Prabhu, this is how I was 2-3 years ago. But then when I started chanting more and more and more, and this devotee was mentioning to me that he was chanting 16 before, and then he made it to 20, then 28, and now consistently he's been chanting 64 rounds for about 2 years. And he told me personally that, Prabhu, it's my experience that the heart has become so sensitive that wherever I smell an opportunity for criticism, either I am criticizing or I'm hearing a criticism, my heart starts, beeping that, there could be a probable, downslide to make mistakes. I could probably, it's very tempting for me to criticize someone. It's very tempting for me to then later justify it also. Very tempting for me to say that, oh, he is not criticizing, he's sharing his heart and I'm trying to help him out. And we always put the pieces together to justify. But he was telling me, what I'm saying is, I have not realized that, but I'm just saying this devotee who was sharing his heart with me, he said that by performing bhakti sincerely for even as little as 2 years, he was chanting 64 rounds every day for 2 years. He told me, now, wherever I see any probable opportunity of silence where there could be, a crispy discussion, he said, I just pull up some pastime of Prabhupada or something that I heard and read or something like that which enlivens everyone in Krishna Bhakti. Or if someone is starting off to take off on a certain point, then I either try to distract the person and get them to some topic which is very favorable. But if the person is very determined to criticize, then I will just fake as if I get a phone call or something and I leave the place. I'll just say, please excuse me, I'll just take this phone call and I'll be back. And then until the time the topic's going on, just don't be there, so that we don't have to pollute our ear and our consciousness with all this negativity. So the point is, when we perform bhakti, yoga randhita karmano riddhi yoga vibhavite yogi noyam prapashyanti. Before we see Krishna, the heart becomes very suitable and very sensitive to any deviation. And the Lord is yogesha. When this yoga is performed properly, anukulya se sankalpa and pratikulya se varjanam, we give up everything that is unfavorable. Even it is very, very tempting, still we give it up. If it is not favorable, unfavorable. And if something is favorable, even if that means that is something that I don't like to do, I still do it. So when the Supreme Lord consistently sees that this person is determined, then the Lord of Yoga, Lord of Bhakti, Yogesha, Sri Krishna, then he takes charge. So it is an interesting point. Krishna is Yogesha, the Lord of Yoga. You see, you perform any karma in this world. So who is benedicting the fruits of these activities, any material activity? The material nature, Mother Nature and demigods. It's not Krishna directly. When you give in philanthropic charity, you perform some austerity, you sleep on the floor or eat once a day or whatever it may be, anything sattvic, then the fruit giver for all those activities are the demigods. Material nature gives some piety and demigods are arranging. But when we chant the name of Sri Hari, who is going to be the salary giver? Not material nature, not the demigods, it is Krishna himself. So when we are hearing about Krishna and sitting in our room and saying Krishna, 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 He, Krishna, 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 He, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Who is keeping a note of this? Demigods? No. Sri Krishna himself. Whenever we perform bhajan, it is Sri Hari who is the salary giver. All other activities, the salary giver are the demigods. Is material nature. But when one performs bhakti, then the salary giver, our boss directly is Sri Hari. This is why Yogesham. He is called Yoga Isha. So by chanting the holy name, we are in direct touch with Sri Krishna. Prabhupada, in one very famous interview, the television interview, we can see the interviewer asked Srila Prabhupada, why is it that everyone in the Hare Krishna movement is always chanting on the beads? And Prabhupada gives the example of the radio. He says, when you hear the radio, you are pretty much aware of what's happening around. You're keeping in touch with the news of this world. Similarly, when you keep chanting Hare Krishna, the sound vibration keeps one and puts one to the platform of staying in touch with Krishna. And because we always want to be in touch with Krishna, we are constantly chanting. This was Prabhupada's response. So by chanting Harinam, we are directly in touch with Krishna. There's no one between us and Sri Krishna. Krishna is the direct salary giver. He is the boss who considers all our hard work as the all-cognizant Lord. He knows what we are doing in our bedroom. There's no one watching. There are no CCTV cameras, but Krishna is watching. So you sit there and you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh, then the Supreme Lord is very happy because he has taken note of this activity. In fact, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, we see when the residents of Kulinagram, they ask Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how do we recognize a Vaishnav? How do we recognize? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave different responses to this. But once Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Krishna nama nirantaro jahara badane shei Vaishnava shrestha bhaja tahara charane. Krishna nama nirantar jahara badane, in whose mouth there is constant chanting. Mahaprabhu did not say just Krishna nama jahara badane. He said Krishna nama nirantar, without anta, nir anta. He whose tongue is constantly vibrating, chanting Krishna Nam. Sri Chaitanya Gauranga Mahaprabhu said, Shri Vaishnava Shrestha. Oh, he's the best, first class Vaishnava. Bhaja Tahara Charane. And we should do bhajan of his charan. Then another time when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asked by the inhabitants of Kolinagram about the recognition of the identity of a Vaishnava, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Jahara darshane mukhe aishe Krishna Nam. Tahara janibe tumi Vaishnava pradhan. Just by darshane matra, jahara darshane mukhe, just by looking at whose face, aishe Krishna Nam. Oh, there's Harinam, Krishna Nam is appearing on the tongue. Tahara janibe tumi, janiha tumi Vaishnava pradhan. Then understand that person is Vaishnava. So Mahaprabhu could have given any definition for Vaishnava. Prabhu kahe Vaishnav seva naam sankirtan, dui karo shikra pabe Shri Krishna charan. He said just chant Harinam and serve the Vaishnavas. So every time when Shachinandan Gaura Hari was asked, he is always speaking about Harinam. Tara madhya sarvasreshta naam sankirtan, nira aparada naam loile paye premadhan. Bahu janma kari adi shravana kirtan tabu to na paye Krishna pade premadhan. Jo nira aparada naam loile paye premadhan. So naam must be chanted, Harinam must be taken, but nira aparada. So the point is here in Gajendra Stuti, Gajendra is saying, Yogesham tam natosmyaham. Why the Supreme Lord is referred to as Yoga Isha? Because he is the direct Lord of Bhakti Yoga. All other paths, the demigods are in charge. But for bhajan, ye bhajante tu maam bhaktya mai te teshu chapyaham. The Supreme Lord has said so many times, those who do bhajan, what kind of bhajan? Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. This bhajan must be priti purvak bhajan. So when one does that, then Yogesham, the Supreme Lord, is the one who deposits prema. Prema dhana bina vyartha daridra jivan. This prem, vetan, this salary of prem is given by Shachinandan Gaura Hari because he is Yogesha. He is the direct person in charge of Harina. So in this way, so many points are given by, are mentioned by Gajendra. We discussed this, so we'll go ahead now. In text 30 of the prayers, some interesting words have been mentioned. Evam Gajendram upa varanita nirvishesham. Evam. Evam means in this way, whatever has been chanted, 28 verses have been chanted. Shukdev Goswami has summarized all of them in the word evam. Thus, in this way, like that. Gajendram upa varanita. We see the word varananam means to describe. Krishna varnam tvisha krishnam sanga upangastra parshadam yajnai sankirtanai prayer yajanti hi sumedasa. Our acharyas have given many commentaries onto this verse to say that the word varna has different meanings. One meaning of the word varna means syllables, like Varanamala in Sanskrit. Varna means syllables. The another meaning of the word varna means varnayati iti, to describe. Third meaning of the word varna means name, in whose name the syllable Krishna is there. Like that. So one meaning of letters is he from whose lips the letters Krishna, Krishna, Krishna is appearing constantly. Krishna, 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 Krishna Nama Kirtanam Prema Dhama Devameva Naumi Gaura Sundaram. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is constantly emanating from his lotus lips. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. So that is one meaning of Krishna Varnam, from whose lotus lips there is Krishna Nam, Ucharanam. Second meaning, he whose name has the Varna, syllables, Krishna. He's Sri Krishna Chaitanya. So his name has Krishna in the name. Syllables, Krishna syllables in the name. And third, Krishna Katham Varnayati iti. He who's constantly describing Krishna Katha. He's giving Hari Katha, Krishna Varnam. So in this way, here the word Varnita refers to description. And Upavarnita, what does Upavarnita means? The word Upa means closer, like Upavasa. Vasa means to reside and Upa means close. So when we say Ekadashi Upavas, one meaning of the word Upavas means to fast on Ekadashi. But Ekadashi Upavas also means on the day of Ekadashi, Ekadasha, through 11 senses, 5 knowledge acquiring senses, 5 working senses, and the 11th is the mind. Through 11 senses, Upavasa, to reside close to Sri Hari. So Upa means close. So Evam Gajendram Upavarnita Nirvishesham. Gajendra offered these prayers, described the Supreme Lord Upa with his heart very close to the Supreme Lord. Now it's interesting, the Supreme Lord is actually very far away. He is in Vaikuntha. And this whole description is in the Trikuta. We mentioned about the Trikuta, I think in the 7th session, I believe, the geographical positioning. So Gajendra is actually, if you see, very far away from Vaikuntha. Very, very far. But why Shukdev Goswami says Upavarnita? Because it's not physical distance, it is the heart-to-heart distance. So Evam Gajendram Upavarnita Nirvishesham. Gajendra described these prayers, Varnita, Upavarnita, by placing his heart very close to the Supreme Lord. Which Lord? The word used is Nirvishesham. Now this Nirvishesham is not the same word as Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine in Prabhupada Pranam Mantra. Nirvishesha. We are not talking about impersonal Nirvishesha. But here Nirvishesha means Gajendra, the Acharyas are explaining, because Gajendra was externally in an animal form, he had forgotten the name of the Supreme Lord. So he was remembering all the qualities of the Lord. Oh, that Lord who's very merciful. Oh, that Lord who's the source of everything. Oh, that Lord whom great souls remember. Oh, that Lord who is the Lord of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Oh, that Lord who is Sachitananda Vigraha. But he was not getting the name. So therefore, if you see throughout Gajendra's Stuti, Gajendra has not offered a single name. He's not remembering, the Acharyas are explaining. So here Nirvishesha doesn't mean calling up the impersonal feature of the Lord, but Nirvishesha here means, Vishesha means specific, and Nirvishesha means without any specific name being called. So Gajendra in his animal form is calling out to the Supreme Lord, and he's saying, my Lord, I am not able to remember your name, but you know whom I am calling out, so you please kindly appear. So here Shukdev Goswami is saying like that. Evam Gajendram Upavarnita Nirvishesham. At that time, Brahma Adaya. Adaya means Adi, etc. So Brahmadaya means Brahma, Indra, Chandra, Agni, Vayu, Varuna, all the demigods. And very specifically, Vivida Linga Bhedaha. Vivida means different types of demigods. And Linga Bhedaha, in different forms, male forms, female forms, everyone. Brahmadayo Vivida Linga. Brahmadayo Vivida Linga Bhida Abhimanaha. Abhimanaha. Abhimana means some egocentric mindset. So what does that mean? The egocentric mindset here is the demigods are thinking, we have been hovering over you, O Gajendra, for such a long time. But you're still calling out. We are there. You just call out to us. You're calling out to someone beyond us. When we can help you, why go beyond? And Gajendra also note this fact that this is a very trivial issue. When was the last time that an elephant called out while being caught in the jaws of a crocodile and the Supreme Lord left Vaikuntha and came? So, just be practical. Don't approach him for everything. This is a very petty issue. We can solve it ourselves. So the demigods were pretty determined on that, but Gajendra was not. He was not looking anywhere except the Supreme Lord. As a result of which, their personal ego was hurt little. That is what the spiritual commentators here describe. So Brahmadayo Vivida Linga Bidhabhimanaha, all the demigods headed by Brahma, whose personal, I hate to use the word ego, but at least in the past time, was personally, they were little hurt that Gajendra is not calling out to them. But here, now they are hurt, not because Gajendra did not call out to them, they are getting hurt because they felt initially that Gajendra should call out to them. So all the demigods are thinking that why did we think like this? We have offended the Supreme Lord. When a devotee wants to call out to the Supreme Lord, we should help them. Instead, we were initially hurt. So now they are hurt that previously they were hurt. This is the understanding. Then Shukdev Goswami says, Na ete yada upa sa sripa nikhila atmakavat tatra akhila amaramaya hari avir asit. Avir means appearance. At that time what happened? When they were all thinking like this, out of nowhere, amaramaya hari. Akhila amaramaya hari. Akhila means the whole creation, everything. Khila means remainder. Akhila means everything but the remainder. So the whole creation. Amaramaya. Amara is one of the names for the demigods. Mara means death and Amara means no death. So although they have departure, they are called Amara because they have a very long lifespan. So according to Sanskrit, Amara Kosha, the book of synonyms, the demigods are called Amara, Nirjara, Devas, Tridhasha, Vibhudha, Suraha. Amaraha means those who don't die, which means they have a very long life. Nirjara, Jara, we know the word Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Jara means old age. So Nirjaraha, those who don't become old, those demigods who don't face old age. So Janma, so Amara, Nirjara, Devaha. Devaha also means demigods. Amara, Nirjara, Devas, Tridasha, the Lord of the heavenly planets. Vibhudhaha. Vibhudhaha means Pandita, scholars. And Suraha, another name for demigod. So here the word uses Amara, Maya. Maya means he who is the source of all the demigods. All the demigods are representatives of Hari. That Shri Hari, Avir Asit. Avir means Avir Bhav, Avir Bhut, to appear. Tasam Avir Bhut Shauri, like that. The Supreme Lord appeared at that point. Very, very beautiful. Gajendra had forgotten the name and he was chanting all these qualities with so much sincerity, calling out to the Supreme Lord. And out of nowhere, the Supreme Lord appeared. Our Acharyas describe this was inconceivably beautiful, the scene. Because the Supreme Lord always goes on the back of Garuda. His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj very beautifully was explaining in one class that nowadays we use all these vehicles which are all dead. They are not alive. But traditionally in Vedic culture, all the vehicles were living beings. Like we see Ganga Devi has a Vahana, has an order carrier in the form of crocodile. And Yamaraj has a buffalo. And Brahma has a swan, a white big Rajahamsa. And Lord Shiva has a bull. And similarly Mother Parvati, a tiger or a lion. And Ganesha, you see, has a mouse. And Kartikeya has a peacock. And similarly, Vishnu has Garuda. So because the Supreme Lord sits on the back of Garuda, and he's the Supreme Lord, and he's sitting on the back of an eagle, Garuda, the supremely powerful eagle, there is a vidhi, there is a proper order in which the Supreme Lord sits. So he performs Achaman first. And then he places a seat on the back of Garuda. And then he also wears shoes in the form of nice golden shoes and slippers. And then he sits on the back of Garuda. So he has slippers, he has an achaman, he has a seat, and he sits there very majestic, in a very majestic, regal way. But this was interesting. When Gajendra was chanting these prayers, of course for us it took more than a month of the corona lockdown that we are discussing, but for Gajendra it was very fast. He was chanting very fast because he was a desperate call of the bleeding of his heart. So at that time, it's described the Supreme Lord appeared with such great speed that the Acharyas have noted that that day there was no Achaman. That day there was no seat on the back of Garuda. And the Supreme Lord sat on the back of Garuda. And Garuda, who's flapping, whose wings when flapped emanate Samaveda, the Lord of that Samaveda was sitting behind. And he was flying so fast that Garuda was flapping his wings faster to keep in pace with the Supreme Lord. This was unheard and unseen, where the Supreme Lord was taking off with so much speed because his devotee was glorifying him. So this also shows us when someone is sincere and is simply looking out for the calling in life, they don't know which direction to go in. It is spontaneously Sri Vishnu or Sri Krishna who help. It is the Vishnu Murti who arrives to help. Gajendra has not called Vishnu even once. He has just called Namaha Atma Pradipaya Sakshine Paramatmane Nama Giram Viduraya Manashaschetasam Api Satvena Pratilabhyaya Naishkarmyena Vipaschita Nama Kaivalya Nathaya Nirvana Sukha Samvide. So who is this Kaivalya Nath? Who is Shantaya Ghoraya Mudhaya? It is naturally a glorification of Sri Hari. So the Supreme Lord appears on the scene in a very majestic way, along with Garuda, on the back of Garuda. And it's described at that time, Gajendra has tears coming down his eyes with so much love. The Lord whom he was calling with so much faith and so much intensity, that Lord is appearing now, dipping down on the back of the Garuda carrier. And at that time, the Acharyas are explaining, headed by Shukdev Goswami here, that Nikhila Atmakatvat, that the Supreme Lord, Atmakatvat, Nikhila Atmakatvat, the Supreme Lord who is the source of all the demigods, when he came, all the demigods started flying with him. So it was so majestic to see. Till now the demigods were revolving and hovering over Gajendra. But now when the Supreme Lord arrived, they all gave way. And with the flying of the Supreme Lord towards Gajendra, all the demigods, they were also following Vishnu. So beautiful. Such beautiful description. In fact, we find even in the appearance of Sri Ram. Now tomorrow is of course Sita Navami. So some pleasure to the lotus ears of Mother Sita must also be given. So it is described that when Sri Ram was appearing in this world, at that time also, the 33 crore demigods, they first came in an airplane and they started offering flowers throughout the city of Ayodhya. As they got to know that Sri Ram is entering the womb of Mother Kaushalya, and then when he's preparing to appear in this world also, 33 crore demigods, they're all filling the city of Ayodhya with flowers, and they're all singing songs and dancing, and there's so much wealth, abundance in Ayodhya suddenly. And all the heavenly damsels, they are playing even instruments so beautifully. Sometimes when it's Ram Navami, we find it difficult to take an off from work and then go to the temple to attend. But the demigods, they don't have any problem like that. When Ram is appearing means complete enjoyment, complete celebration. The sky was filled with demigods and Gandharvas and Apsaras and singing Bhagavat Kirti. They are all singing the glories of Sri Ram. And in such a way, with high intensity, throat volume, and with so much bhava from their heart, and transcendental ragas are being sung. So much celebration. Lord Shiva is on the back of the Nandi, and so many demigods on the back of their order carriers, and even pure devotees like Narada Muni and Bali Maharaj and Prahlad, they are all appearing there. Hands full of flowers, profusely they are decorating Ayodhya. Residents, of course, couldn't see, but flowers, transcendental flowers were being showered. And Ayodhya also, people coming out of their homes and decorating the homes, and lanes are decorated, and all the sages are chanting prayers, and there are yajnas being performed. Mother Kaushalya is being influenced by Yoga Maya as the Supreme Lord is appearing. Very, very similar to the 10th canto description where the Supreme Lord is appearing. And the demigods are offering prayers and stuti and so much celebration. So much celebration. So in this way, very different from our appearance in this world, where the womb is like a bag where we are stuck, so much suffering and injections and crying, and we are born naked with total ignorance. So that's not how the Supreme Lord appears. The Supreme Lord is appearing four-handed, with hair, locks of soft hair up to his shoulder, and he brings his own clothes and his ornaments, and he's speaking clearly. But babies, when they are born in this world, they're smeared with blood and no hair on their body, and they're crying, and they're born naked. Forget about getting clothes and ornaments and all of these things. So similarly here, when Mahavishnu, Sri Hari, is appearing to this scene, it is described all the demigods are also following, and such a historic moment when the Supreme Lord is chasing to save his devotee from the clutches of the crocodile. In fact, just like we know that there are different kinds of Krishnas in Krishna Lila. We have Krishna in Vrindavan, and Krishna in Mathura, and Krishna in Dwarka. And some devotees like the Dwarka Leelas more, and some like Krishna Leela more. They say, my Krishna is Vrindavan Krishna, and some say, my Krishna is Dwarkadish Krishna, etc. Similarly, in Ram Leela also, there are different kinds of Ram. There is Ram of Ayodhya, and then there is Ram in Chitrakoot, and then there is Ram in Dandakaranya, and then there is Ram in Panchavati, and then there is Ram who goes to Lanka. So this question can be asked, that which Ram do we like the most? Spontaneously, some of us will say, well, I like the Ram in Ayodhya. But some great Rama Bhaktas have opined that the Ram who goes to Lanka is very dear to the hearts of the devotees. Why? Because everywhere Ram appears on invitation. In Ayodhya, Ram is appearing after a Putra Kameshti Yajna performed by Dasharath Maharaj. So then Ram is appearing. He is invited in Ayodhya, then Ram comes. In Chitrakoot, we see Valmiki Rishi is guiding. Then we see in the Dandakaranya arena, you have the sages. Then in Panchavati, we have Agastya Muni. But Lanka is the only place where Sri Ram goes uninvited. There is no invitation. In Ayodhya, there is invitation. In Chitrakoot, there is direction. Dandakaranya, there is service. Panchavati also, Agastya Muni. But in Lanka, no one is inviting. Still, the Supreme Lord goes to Lanka uninvited. Sri Ram goes there uninvited. And not just goes there, he destroys the 10-headed Ravana and makes everyone happy. So the Acharyas are commenting, and great Ram Bhaktas have said that the Ram in Lanka, who goes to Lanka, is very dear to the hearts of the devotees. Why? Because our heart is like Lanka. And everywhere else Ram is invited, but in Lanka he is not invited. Still he goes. So my Lord Sri Ram, my heart is like Lanka. It is very dark with ignorance. And the 10-headed Ravana is sitting inside with lust and anger and greed and etc. All of these vices. And I don't even feel like inviting you, my Lord. So it is a Lanka city which is not inviting you. But just like in the Ramayana, my Lord, you went to Lanka uninvited. And you destroyed Ravana and restored Lanka and made it pure. Similarly, Sri Ram, please uninvitedly enter the Lanka of my heart and destroy the Ravana of my ignorance. And make this Lanka as your Ayodhya, and please kindly reside here. So if Sri Ram can go to Lanka uninvited and destroy Ravan and establish himself there, imagine how much more when someone invites him. So here Gajendra is actually calling out 28 verses and inviting the Supreme Lord. So Ram goes to Lanka uninvited and he does good. Imagine, so Sri Hari, why won't he do good when someone invites him? So here Gajendra is with all intensity, through body, mind and words, he is calling out to the Supreme Lord. So why won't Sri Hari appear here? Why won't he appear? By chanting Harinam, why won't the Supreme Lord appear? Naham vasami vaikunthe yoginam hridayeshu va yatra gayanti madbhaktaha tatra tisthami narada. This the Supreme Lord has said, that wherever my devote, so even without inviting, I go to Lanka and I do good. Imagine if someone invites me, how quickly I will go. Oh Narada, please note, I don't reside in Vaikuntha. I don't reside in the hearts of the meditative yogis. Wherever my devotees call out my names with intensity, with love, Priti Purvakam, oh, that is where I go. So here Gajendra is calling out Priti Purvakam. He is calling out the names of Sri Hari through his qualities. Why won't the Supreme Lord appear? So the Supreme Lord is appearing with his full potency, with all the demigods on his side. Like my Guru Maharaj was once describing this, that once when he had opportunity to go to Dashashwamedha Ghat, he was explaining that Dashashwamedha Ghat is generally a very crowded place, and it's filled with, of course, a lot of street beggars also. So one day when he went there, it was completely clean, and there was no one. It was very, very pure. The place was filled with rangoli, and nice songs are being played, and there's no traffic and no beggars, and it's such a clean place, well maintained. So he was thinking, what's wrong? So he asked someone, Srila Guru Maharaj asked someone, so the person said, actually Indira Gandhi is expected. So therefore, they are cleaning the whole place to welcome her. So Indira Gandhi came and she saw, and then she left. Once she left, then everything became back to square one. So then it came back. All the street beggars came back, and all the rangolis left, and there was honking and so many people around. So the point is, when Indira Gandhi is coming, at that time there's so much majestic celebration. Everything inauspicious is taken away, and there is rangoli and favorable songs, and everything is cleansed. So imagine how much more when the Supreme Lord is appearing in front of Gajendra. The whole creation is watching. Vishnu is leaving Vaikuntha to go and help an elephant. This has never happened in history. So everyone's clearing up. And just like songs and rangoli are played for politicians, similarly here now the demigods are playing real, not through a speaker, but real, loudspeaker. They're all singing and dancing to welcome the Supreme Lord. By chanting the holy name, the Supreme Lord will appear. Either he will appear, or either he will come and see us, or we will go and see him. It is described that one time there was one man who was not at all interested in chanting the holy name. So his brother, who was a great devotee, he told a sadhu that, you know, sadhu, we have to chant the holy name. And I am chanting the holy name, you are chanting the holy name. But unfortunately, my brother is not chanting the holy name. So can you kindly inspire him to chant? The sadhu said, okay, just get me home. So he came home, and he started talking to this brother who was not interested in chanting. And the brother was saying, I don't want to chant Narayana. You guys chant Narayana. So the sadhu won his faith and friendship. And one day he just pounced on him and started pressing his neck and strangulating him by sitting on the chest. And this person said, what are you doing? You're choking me. And the sadhu said, no, say Narayana. He said, no, why should I say? He said, you're going to die. I'm going to kill you. Just say Narayana. So this person said Narayana. And then the sadhu let go. And then he said, no, good, very good. Now you don't have to chant anymore. This is good. Good enough. So the man didn't know why the sadhu did it. But after the person died, Yamadutas came and they took him to Yamaraj. Yamaraj said, oh, you have been a very sinful man, but you have also done something good. That is, you have chanted the holy name of Narayana. You please tell me, do you want to first suffer for your sins, or you want to enjoy for this act of chanting Narayana? So this man said, I want to first enjoy for chanting Narayana, but you have to know exactly how much enjoyment to give me, because I have chanted Narayana in a very helpless way. This sadhu was choking and strangulating me, so I chanted Namabhas. So you please calculate and give me the right level of enjoyment. So now Yamaraj started scratching his head to think, what should I give in reciprocation to someone who has helplessly called out the name? So I don't know what to do. So he said, this is a very tough decision. I have never taken this before. Let's go and ask Brahma. So the Yamadutas, Yamaraj and this man, they went to Brahma. Said, you please kindly calculate. Brahma said, I have never seen this situation in my life before. I don't know how much enjoyment to give a person who has helplessly called out the name. I think Shiva would know it better. So then they all went, Brahma and Yamaraj and Yamadutas and this man, they went to Shiva Loka. And they asked Lord Shiva, what do you think? What should a man who has helplessly chanted the holy name, what kind of enjoyment to give him? Lord Shiva said, actually, I know that one should chant helplessly, but I don't know how much pleasure and how much enjoyment to give such a person. What does he deserve? I don't know. Only Narayana knows. So then let's go to Vishnu and ask. So Lord Shiva and Brahma and Yamadutas and Yamaraj with this man, they went to Vaikuntha. And they asked Narayana, what does a person get by helplessly once saying Narayana? Narayana smiled and said, that person comes to Vaikuntha and he is properly got here with respect by the controllers of this world, namely Brahma, Shiva and Yamaraj. So this is the benefit of helplessly once calling out the name Narayana. So here Gajendra is calling out 28 verses. Why won't the Supreme Lord appear? So there the man, he went and saw, had darshan, and he lived in Vaikuntha. Vishnu is saying that by once saying, you will come to Vaikuntha, my eternal abode, and you will be got here with so much respect by the controllers of this world, Brahma, Shiva and Yamaraj. So there, by chanting once, the person is going and seeing Vishnu. But here, by crying like Gajendra, Vishnu is coming and releasing Gajendra from this struggle. So the Supreme Lord appears to the scene, and how he liberates Gajendra and how he showers mercy, that we will see tomorrow Friday night here in North America from 7 to 8 p.m. Tomorrow we will have class Eastern Standard Time, and there we will finish the last 3 verses of this chapter. Monday onwards we'll start the next chapter of the 8th canto to see the past life of Gajendra. By chanting these prayers, what happens is we develop good qualities. So we should put it to practice to chant these 28 verses every single day. Just like a caterpillar, which initially looks, it keeps crawling around in dirty places. But that caterpillar, when it develops wings and becomes a butterfly, we'll see that butterfly looks very, very beautiful. It gives up its old skin of being a caterpillar and it starts flying, going from flower to flower very beautifully. So similarly, at the moment, in a conditioned state, we are like caterpillars. We are crawling through garbage of this world. But by chanting these prayers of Gajendra, we will give up our caterpillar body, material conditioning, and we will become very beautiful butterflies in our spiritual form. And we will be covered with 26 qualities of a Vaishnava, and with our wings, we will fly, escaping this material shell, going from flower to flower, the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. From one lotus, the left lotus feet of the Lord, to the right lotus feet, we will be flying like butterflies, being completely liberated, flying beyond this material realm. But for that transformation, going from being a caterpillar now to developing 26 qualities of a Vaishnava and becoming a liberated butterfly, we have to chant these Gajendra Stuti every day and imbibe this mood that the Acharyas are giving us. So we will meet again tomorrow, Friday night, from 7 to 8 Eastern Standard Time, to continue our discussion on how the Supreme Lord rescues Gajendra. Patita Pavan Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.